Chitradurga Fort. The antiquity of the fort goes back to as early as the Kadambas of Banavasi. The present fort is the work of the Hoysalas, 11th to 14th centuries, followed by the Vijayanagara rulers 1336 to 1565. The first instance of fortification at Chitradurga is by Kamageti Timana Nayaka around 1562 CE. Hi there. So this is Chitradurga, the city out there, and now walking into the fort. I heard about this as a recommendation by a viewer a few days ago. I was in Hampi. I am flying out of Bangalore or Bengaluru, so it was a perfect stop.
Hello.
Hello, namaste.
Namaste. You need guide?
No, thank you. Just walking around.
Guide is essential. It's a vast area.
Excuse me?
It's a vast area. Guide is essential.
It's a big area, yeah. It's okay. I'm just kind of going for a pleasant walk and
Okay.
have a nice time. So, America.
America.
Yeah.
Yes.
You're from Chitradurga?
Yes. Native born place here.
I see. Great, great.
Your good name?
Gabriel. Yeah.
Profession?
Hotel reception.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Hotel reception.
Yeah.
Okay.
Alrighty. Have a nice evening.
Okay, nice.
I didn't feel like explaining the whole YouTube thing, so hotel reception was my last job in Canada before YouTube took off. So, as he said, it is a vast area here. An old fort set amidst cool boulder-strewn landscapes, which is part of the reason why I wanted to stop here. It reminded me a little bit of Hampi when I saw the pictures, and it's basically halfway between Hampi and Bangalore, and so it was good to break up the journey. I have a hotel here last night and tonight. Tomorrow, get the bus to Bangalore, and then the next day, catch my flight. You will find out where to very soon. Okay, we have various temples, Ekana Vishwari, Hidambeshwari, Banashankari. Hello, no thank you, sir.
Only for 300.
Oh, no thanks, I'm just going to enjoy the walk, so. So I really like the looks of this fort, the way that it's in fairly good condition, but also kind of falling apart. It just kind of evokes that, ruined history and the centuries of life and various rulers and everything that occupied this region, and a little known area. Never heard of it before. Obviously not on the tourist trail, especially the foreign tourists trail. I will be very surprised if I see any other foreign tourists here. So this should be a really interesting walkthrough. So I thought that I would do something a little bit different than just a fort tour here. Since this is probably the last video from my trip this time, I just spent 6 weeks in India, my 12th time to India. And so I thought that while I'm walking around, then I would talk about all the reasons why India is such an incredible place to travel to. So number one, for me, is the incredible diversity of different types of places that you can experience here. Even just on this trip, over the past 6 weeks, then I have really crossed a lot of the different areas of India that you can explore. I started in Kolkata in the northeast, so the big crazy city. I then flew north up to Darjeeling and by bus traveling through the Himalayas of West Bengal and then going into Sikkim, and so got the Himalayan mountains experience. And then from there flew down to Hyderabad, another big city, very modern, very high tech. And then from there to Goa and the incredible beaches, and then to Gokarna. Hello. And more amazing beaches there in Gokarna, and then went across inland to Badami, Aihole, Patadakal, where there are ruins that are quite similar to these ones here, a similar era and empire, and then to Hampi, and here. So, cities, mountains, the most amazing mountains in the world, beaches, desert, temples, forts, all of that in 6 weeks. And that is even just the tip of the iceberg of what you can experience here in India. So that is certainly one of the things that really brings me back again and again, is just that there is always more to see. There is such a variety of different places to experience. The contrast is just absolutely off the charts. I think the most diverse country in the world. I mean, India is like more diverse than all of Europe. Culturally, religiously, linguistically, in terms of the landscapes, you have absolutely everything. Tropics, the hottest places in the world, the wettest place in the world in Northeast India. And so you will just never, ever in your lifetime run out of places to visit in India, both returning to those places that are just really enjoyable to experience, and then there is always more to see, partly because of just the largeness of the country, but then it is just so jam-packed with things to see, many of which are totally off the tourist map. And like this place here, you can experience somewhere beyond the main sites: Taj Mahal, Rajasthan, Mumbai, Rishikesh, etc. But all of those are really worth visiting as well. So number two, I would say, is the people, the welcoming energy, the friendliness, the kindness. There is a overall just good feeling from the people everywhere you go, from workers in convenience stores to even the police. Actually, getting in here was a whole hassle because it's online ticket sales, and so you have to use your phone and a QR code, and then you have to do all this stuff. It's super complicating, and my phone was not going to do it. And so I guess he was a guard, maybe, not sure if he was a guard or a policeman, but super friendly, and he did it on his phone, and then I just paid him the ticket fee. But just people in general are very welcoming, very excited to meet foreigners, very interested in engaging. Many places you will go, you will just kind of be ignored basically as a tourist. Here, not the case. You have lots of interactions with people, learn about their lives, what they're interested in, their dreams. They want to go to America. They want to, be a IT professional. And so you really can get an insight into the culture very, very easily and feel very welcomed in their country and very safe. Of course, there are things you have to watch out for: scams, possible robbery, whatever. Everywhere you go, there can be random bad stuff, but overall, it is a very, very positive experience as far as the local people. And then third, I would say, is the prices. that is certainly one of the factors that brought me back again and again, especially in my early days when I was traveling on just absolute bare bones budget. So my first trip to India, October 1999 to March of 2000, 5 months, I had something like $1,350 or something like that when I started that trip, to my name, my flight paid for, and that just barely lasted for the entire trip. I think that works out to $8.50 per day. And I never stayed in a hostel. I have never stayed in a hostel in India. Always private rooms, eating out. Now, that trip included some really extreme budget traveling. For example, I mentioned the rainbow gathering that I went to near Gokarna, where I stayed for, I forget, a week, 10 days, something like that. And that was basically free, other than just chipping in a little bit for food. But we were sleeping on a beach. But then I had rooms for, you know, a couple bucks. And this was 23 years ago, so things were generally cheaper. Rooms especially were across the board cheaper then. But still, it is very, very affordable, especially if you are on an extreme budget and really need to keep the costs down. Then you can still find the very, very cheap rooms. For example, my friend Bo from Poland, who was in the last 2 videos in Hampi, just sent me a message saying he arrived where he is now over on the coast, and there were like bamboo huts available on the beach for 200 rupees. That is $2.50. That is now, you know, March 2023, and you can still find rooms for 200 rupees if you try. But mostly it's going to be more than that. You're going to pay 10 to 20 bucks is typical for a private room, private bathroom, basic, nothing fancy, but everything you need. And with the prices of food still being very, very cheap, you can easily travel on, you know, $20 to $50 a day or so, just depending a lot on how you're traveling. So it is somewhere that you can stretch your money for months rather than just paying for a 2-week vacation to somewhere that's a lot more expensive. Footprints on an altar, basically. You see that in various places. Not exactly certain what that represents, but obviously kind of a sacred altar type of a symbol. So, fourth I would say is the food. Indian food is definitely one of my favorite foods in the world. Ganapati Temple. Namaste. And the gymnasium. Long been known for its garatis, traditional gyms. Some of the famous garatis are Doda Garati, Sanagarati, Buru Jinahatya. Early 15th century. Okay, where is that? Is that this? Oh, you got a little chipmunk. Hi there. Okay, I guess maybe this is it. All right, things are getting more interesting as we get further up. Look at that really cool looking temple there. So I would say that my 6 favorite foods are, number 1, Mexican, without a doubt. And then the other 5 are all sort of a tie. I don't want to rank them, but I would say Indian, Greek, Thai, Italian, and like Germanic foods like sausages and potatoes and kind of the like heavy sort of Northern Europe or Eastern Europe type of cuisine. And so the food in India is definitely one of the big advantages over various other countries that I've been to that I won't name, where the food really is not that inspiring. But India, when it's good, it's good. Now, I'll admit that after 6 weeks, I am getting ready for a change for different kind of food. But Indian food is unique and tasty on a whole other level. Of just like that wow factor of taste, flavors that you don't get anywhere else, that are totally different from other parts of the world and packed with flavor. And a wide variety of different types of dishes, much more than just what you see on American, Indian menus. If you go to an Indian restaurant in the United States or Europe or whatever, it will be a more limited menu, but inside India, there is a great amount of variety. There's a lot of difference from the north to the south, or the east to the west. And of course, food in general is an important part of the traveling experience. So you have something to look forward to when it comes to mealtime here in India. Okay, I guess it's a goddess temple. A Shiva Lingam here, and cobras. So definitely referencing Shiva, but on the sign was mentioned a goddess. Maybe Hanuman there? Very interesting figures up there. Let's take another look at the Ekanatheshwari temple. Ekanatheshwari, the tutelary goddess of the hill town. In the rock-cut Garbhagriha is a large relief of the goddess head carved out of the boulder. She wears a Kirita crown, and by the side is a small seated image of Kali, another Hindu goddess, holding a Trishula trident, Damaru, double-faced hand percussion drum, a drinking cup, and a sword. So it looks like that would probably be open at certain times and you could go inside, but right now it's locked. So no idea who that is. Obviously a man, kind of looks like a soldier or maybe a leader with a knife there. Looks a little sultan-like to me, like maybe a Muslim, but that could definitely be wrong. Oh boy. We just got a big group. So, number 5 is what we are experiencing now, which is the history of India and how incredibly rich it is, how much there is to learn, how many different cultures intermingling at various phases, all the different religions, the Hindu, the Jain, the Buddhist, the Muslim, even Christian and Jewish, Zoroastrianism, Sikhs, etc. Wow, this is a vast site. Okay, I guess we'll go this way first. So there is just so much to experience and learn about as far as Indian history, and I think it must be the oldest living culture. I could be wrong about that, but thinking about the oldest cultures known, for example, Sumerians, but the Sumerians aren't around anymore. I mean, obviously their descendants or whatever, but the culture now in that region, Iraq, etc., is not, a direct continuation of that culture and their beliefs and everything. Whereas the culture, the religion of India is so old that they don't know when it began. There's no precise beginning point for Hinduism. We know when Christianity began. We know when Judaism began, roughly, Moses, etc. We know when Buddhism began with Buddha. We know when the Muslim religion began with Muhammad. But the Indian religion and the culture going along with it, it just kind of disappears into prehistory. It is not exactly known when the concepts, the deities, Shiva, Vishnu, Krishna, Ganesha, Hanuman, Saraswati, Kali, Parvati, all of the vast pantheon of gods and goddesses, when that was developed exactly. Thousands and thousands of years BC. And so you have this continuity of this culture in which you find the images of Vishnu, like we're seeing here. Vishnu and Shiva, the Shiva Lingam and the trident and Ganesha and all this. The same images being worshipped and talked about and inspiring and affecting their culture. Hello.
Hi.
Hello. One of the oldest sites in the world of human civilization is Göbekli Tepe in Turkey. So that most likely predates Hinduism and the Indian culture. However, that is long, long lost as far as what that culture was, who they were, what they really worshipped. And so as far as, that continuity of the culture, the history, the people of India, despite the linguistic differences, despite all of the different kingdoms that have existed, despite the invasions of various other peoples from far outside of India, then their culture, their history has persisted, and so they have that direct lineage of the same people with many of the same beliefs and everything going on for centuries and millennia and millennia. Wow, this site is really blowing me away. It just keeps going and going. As you can see, it is late in the day. I was having a lazy afternoon. It is now probably after 5 o'clock. But a great time to be here because we have clouds. It is cool. I'm not getting blasted by afternoon sun. Wow, what a just phenomenal site. Why is this place not more well known? I think it's more amazing than Badami. And although it's definitely not at the level of Hampi where I was before, as far as the exquisiteness, the grandeur and magnificence of the temples and everything there, from what I've seen so far here, it doesn't compare. But the scale is pretty remarkable and almost, up there with some of the best forts and historic sites to see as far as how much there is to explore here. Look at that. Going way up there. And so the sixth reason why India is a great place to travel is because of the language. Not the local languages. I mean, that is certainly something that might interest you as far as learning about them, but the prevalence of English throughout most of India. Because, of course, of the British occupation, not that that is the only thing that causes people to speak English as a second language, but that was, of course, a factor. The British Raj, which dominated India for more than a century, then the people of India, many have learned English, and it is actually how many people who speak different languages, native languages, speak to each other. For example, a businessman from Kerala or Tamil Nadu or Karnataka might speak English with a businessman from somewhere in the north who speaks Hindi, because a Hindi speaker likely won't learn Kannada or Tamil, and someone from the south might not learn Hindi. And so English is very widely spoken, certainly not everyone by any means, but especially the people that you are most likely to interact with, the hotel owners, the waiters in the nicer restaurants, the tour operators, the information booth at the bus station or train station. Anyone who is educated beyond a basic level will likely speak at least some English, enough to help with the conversation, and very likely then they are just plain fluent. And so it just makes it that much easier to be able to travel around knowing that you can find somebody who speaks English in most places that you'll go. And speaking of buses and trains, that leads to number 7, which is the ease of getting around the country. Transportation. That is, of course, a major factor as a traveler, is how much hassle is going to be involved in trying to get from place to place. For example, Albania. Trying to cross Albania can be pretty tricky. Very few buses. I don't recall if there are any trains there. I ended up hitchhiking out of necessity once, going to like a major area, to the beaches in the south. Found myself in a rough spot because there was literally just not a bus going there. And other places in the world, you know, very limited schedules. You have to kind of plan things out very carefully. Mongolia, I haven't been there yet, but, you know, don't go to Mongolia and expect to just like go catch a bus across the country or whatever. But in India, it is just so dang easy. You show up at the bus station, you walk around, you find a bus going to wherever you're going to, or at least going to another city that will then have another bus going to where you're going to. But especially the bus system is just so fast, and so many buses going so frequently that you can be spontaneous with your plans. You don't necessarily have to plan ahead. And then the trains are really the ultimate way to travel in India. And although they can be trickier as far as booking them, you will need to book in advance most likely. The schedules will be less frequent than the buses, but it is a fun way to travel. You know, it is just like the ultimate experience to travel across India for 8 hours, 12 hours, 14 hours, and experience everything that goes on the train, see these sights along the way. The sellers of various things, drinks and snacks and bottled water and cigarettes and everything coming through the train. All the beggars, the singers, people, you know, making music or whatever on the train in order to make some money. It's like this whole cultural experience, just sitting there in your seat on the train. A shrine here, not sure who. Okay, there's something down there, but let's keep on cruising upwards. Make sure that we get the chance to see some of those high up points before the place gets shut down and guards start sweeping through, maybe kicking everyone out. And then, of course, there's all the rickshaws. You get to the bus station and need to get to your hotel. You just catch a rickshaw. It's cheap, it's easy, they're just waiting there. But also, there's Uber and the various ride apps to get around. And then flights across the country are generally very reasonably priced. So any which way you want to travel from place to place, then there's a way to do it in India, and it will most likely be fairly convenient and affordable. Kashi Vishwanatha Temple, Anjanaya Temple. I guess those are little ones down in there. And then this way, Gopala Krishna Temple. And so the eighth reason why India is somewhere you should consider traveling to is the general fact that the country is advancing and developing. Okay, I think that we've hit a dead end here. So, my first time to India. Oh, alrighty, excellent. Was in, as I said, October 1999. I have seen a lot of changes since then. Certainly not everywhere. The little villages and stuff, to a great extent, haven't changed that much. But especially the bigger cities, then there has been major development, newer buildings, roads, the general infrastructure is improving to a great extent and steadily advancing into, the 21st century, so that it is getting easier to deal with the rigors of travel in India. It is still intense, as I showed, for example, on my Himalayan journey through West Bengal and Sikkim. The journeys through the mountains on those horrendous roads, winding, bumpy, never-ending. You travel 10 to 15 miles an hour, and that's like in a private taxi. Things haven't changed a whole lot, in certain places, but in many places it has changed a lot. Much better roads, quicker to get around, cleaner, more choice of 5-star restaurants if you want, the more developed, high-tech parts of the cities in Delhi and Kolkata, Mumbai, Bangalore or Bengaluru, Hyderabad, etc. Then you have these parts of the cities developing, getting bigger, of newer buildings and wider streets and cleaner and better managed, less chaotic, etc. Which, as I've discussed, are often the least interesting places to visit. The old towns are still where it's at as a tourist, but at least you have that choice of stay in a nice hotel in a nicer part of town. Also, the Wi-Fi has improved considerably, even just in the past 3-4 years or whatever. Then I'm seeing across the board Wi-Fi speeds are considerably improved, as I showed in my room here. Nice and fast. Not the fastest, but perfectly good enough for general surfing and YouTube video uploading. They're working great. So that is a huge improvement. As anyone who does any online work knows, that becomes a very critical issue for where you're going to stay. Is how much of a hassle is the Wi-Fi going to be? How much is it going to slow you down and waste your time dealing with it? So things are very much heading in the right direction quite rapidly in the internet realm. All right. Man, temples all over. So number 9, why you should consider traveling to India is one of the main reasons that a lot of people come to India. That is the spirituality. As mentioned, the Hindu religion is older than history. And has been very influential around the world in terms of being exported. You had Paramahansa Yogananda in the 1920s moving to California and teaching meditation and yoga. The Beatles traveled to Rishikesh in 1968, practiced yoga and meditation with the Maharishi Mahesh Yogi, and as a result, India became a destination for spiritual seekers in multitudes, in part thanks to the Beatles and various other spiritual teachers, either teaching from India or leaving India and going elsewhere. Not just Hinduism, but of course Buddhism as well. Buddha was an Indian Hindu. I mean, to call him Indian is kind of wrong, but there was no India back in his time. But he was a Hindu in the land of Hindustani. And so Buddhism also comes out of India. And so all of the teachings within those religions is what draws a lot of people to come to India and go to Rishikesh, practice yoga, meditation, live in an ashram, learn Ayurveda and Panchkarma, and the kind of more alternative spiritual teachings of Osho and Satya Sai Baba. And many others who have taught the basic spiritual principles of Hinduism, and then sometimes with their own different perspective or practices. But India is really the ultimate place to come as a spiritual tourist if you want to immerse yourself in a spiritual discipline while also enjoying the good food and the affordable prices and everything else that I mentioned already. Okay, how do I get up there? Man, this site is just massive, and there's a really interesting looking like ring of pillars out there that I really want to get to. I also wanted to get up there. Maybe I need to go that way. I'm not seeing a proper path. I can't really tell what's going on here. I guess it's the fort wall, it looks like, going up. But I don't see an actual path there, so maybe I need to get around this way. So number 10 is actually probably the most important reason why you should consider traveling to India, and that is the overall experience. The previous things I mentioned are kind of more practical elements of the traveling experience here, but what it comes down to is that It is about the actual experience that you will have here, the atmosphere of the country, the very different types of experiences that you will have that are just so different, especially if you are from the West, compared to being back home in the US or Canada or Australia or Europe. I have a bad feeling that this guy is going to not allow me to go further, which is really going to be a bummer because there's so much to explore up there, but it is getting later and it looks like this is a guard. Not possible, huh? Exit. Okay. Well, that is a bummer, but that's the way it goes. At least I got to see a lot of it, despite my late start to the day. Who knows, maybe I'll come back in the morning and see a little bit more before I take off, catch my bus to Bangalore. But really what India is about is everything I mentioned before, all mixed together, and then more than that, just the feeling of being here, the energy, the vibe, the atmosphere, the general intensity of the experience, which is certainly to a great extent a result of the history, the culture, how long the people have been here practicing their religion and their ways of life, combined with the just very different level of living, being less developed, then it is a very different type of experience, and that is a big part of the draw for many of us travelers, is the chaos of the markets, the strangeness of driving through narrow streets in a rickshaw, the animals, coming across cows and pigs and dogs and monkeys and elephants and goats, just walking down the street. I've literally seen elephants walking down the street with riders, but you're not going to see that in New York City, most likely. Or monkeys just wild, swinging from the trees, stealing your bananas. It is somewhere that you will undoubtedly have really life-changing experiences just because it is so different, it is so intense, it is so challenging in a lot of ways to travel here. But that is the point. That is one of the things that makes India so different, so unique, and so impactful. There might be some good news. Maybe I can still get up here at least. All right. At least I can see some more. Hidden Beshwara Temple, one of the oldest temples on the hill. 1411 AD. I think that this is the first cloudy day that I've seen in India since I left the Himalayas. It's nice to experience the coolness for a change. Okay, we should get a good view. All right. I guess this is the temple that was referred to from the 15th century, and yes, nice view. So my hotel is just half a kilometer from the entrance of the fort, other side of these boulders here. So very convenient location for visiting the fort and the palaces and everything here. Let's see if we can also get over there and see that before the guards come. Interesting symbol, haven't seen that one before that I recall. Like a star or a flower. Is this another temple or a more practical structure? Huh. Kind of like a gateway building. Wow. Definitely a different style of construction compared to Hampi and Badami. The Hoysalas were a different empire than the Vijayanagar, so I'm not sure exactly what here is Hoysala versus Vijayanagar, but the Vijayanagar Empire was the one that was in Hampi, and so this would have been part of that. It isn't that far away. But there were obviously other influences as well. This is what I'm talking about as far as like the whole mix of the history, the religion, the landscapes, the animals, all kind of mixed together to create this experience somewhere like this, especially once the crowds are gone. It is just like nowhere else.